Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I wanted to create a second part to the video that I made about the hidden dash features on the C7 Corvette because there are still plenty of features to cover. Okay, so first let's go ahead and hit the engine start-stop button and hold it down for 10 seconds like I said in the first video. And that gets everything coming to life. Okay, so first we're going to start with something pretty easy. In the 7-speed manual, you have these paddle shifters here. These are the rev match paddles. And while looking at the dashboard here, if you see the little number 1 right down here, if you hit the rev match paddle, that will turn orange. And that means your rev match is on. So basically, anytime you downshift in the car will automatically blip the throttle and match the RPM, so you can just let out the clutch and it will be a nice, even transition. Second is going to be the performance traction modes. So this is mostly accomplished by the actual mode select button right there. And basically, when you turn that, you'll cycle through the actual different handling modes. So you have weather, eco, tour, sport, and track. For the most part, it's going to just be the tour, sport, and track. So if we go all the way over to track, then here in the middle, if you see the traction button, we're going to press that once and then twice, and then that's going to bring up our actual performance traction modes. So you go through these with that same mode select wheel, and this is going to give you some additional options on top of your actual drive modes. So basically, if you go into track mode and you turn off the traction, it's going to give you all these different options where if you are actually on the track and you're a pretty good driver, you're going to go all the way over to race here, and that's going to give you the most full-blown race mode. So basically, all the stabilization is off. Any of the active handling is turned off. Basically, you are driving the car. The computers are not helping you at all. So for the most part, that's what most people are going to do right there, because that's going to allow you to do your burnouts and everything like that without any kind of ABS or anything kicking on. So this is these are where you're going to come in for, obviously, for setting it to, if the track is wet, you would put it on wet. Same with if it's dry, you'd put it on dry, but that still keeps some of the actual performance handling, where if you want everything turned off, you would go up here to either Sport 2 or Race. And basically, Sport 1 is going to give you as close to it as possible, but still keep the active handling on, which is going to help you, not lose the car in turns and things like that. Whereas with Race, it's literally all in your hands. Now, for those of you who are interested in typically driving in sport, which is usually what I do, the sport driving, if you ever want to turn off all of your traction control and everything as well, if you press the traction control button once, you see the traction control light up there. But the problem is if you press it again, it just turns it back on. So there's literally no way to get it all turned off unless you press and hold down the traction control button for 5 seconds, and then you can see that one lit up over there too. So now I'm literally, all traction controls turned off and I'm in sport. So a lot of the same things apply here. Active handling and everything's still on, but this is going to give you the ability to do a burnout and things like that without the traction control kicking in and stopping you from doing it. Now, I had a request for showing the V4 mode that kicks on. This is going to be specific to the 7-speed manual. It is a little bit different with the automatic. The automatic will basically can kick in the 4-cylinder mode in any traction control situation. So if you have this set in a stick, you would want this set to the eco mode before the 4-cylinder mode would kick in. Whereas with the automatic, it can happen in any one of the modes. So I took a video of my car actually going into and coming out of 4-cylinder mode. I'll put that in right here. Okay, so to get from the V8 to the V4 while driving, first you want to set the actual mode to Eco. Once we're in Eco, then hit the left button on the D-pad on the wheel. Go up to Info, scroll down to where you'll see your fuel range, and as you can see there, I'm actually in 6th gear and it's showing four cylinder. It just switched to V8. I thought you had to be in the 7th gear for that to happen originally, but once I get up this hill here, if I slow down, it will actually kick back into V4 right there. So in the manual car, you actually can be in any gear as long as you're in the eco mode, and below a certain RPM it will kick into V4. All right, and I had some more requests for going over some of the settings a little bit more in depth. So if we go again using the directional pad, if you hit it to the left side, it'll bring up this little list here. You go all the way down to the bottom to settings. Obviously this first setting here is going to allow you to change it from US units to metric, so it's going to be difference of like miles and kilometers and things like that. The next one down, literally, like I touched on in the first video, allows you to change the theme from sport, tour, or track. This one here, you can actually enable this as a speed warning. If you wanted to make sure, you know, because for the most part the car is pretty smooth with acceleration, so you can actually set this to be enabled and it would pop up on the dash and ding at you if you were going over a certain speed. So if I wanted it to say keep me under 80 miles an hour, I'd set it to 80, and if the car ever went over 80, it would ding and alert me. That way I would slow down. This one here is little pocket gauges that show up on the left and right hand side of the sport theme, and I'll actually show you here. And these are the pocket gauges. So on the left you can see I have transmission temperature, and on the right I have oil temperature. If I wanted to change these, I would hit right on the directional pad and then hit edit gauges. And then from here I can select whichever side I want to change. So let's change the right side first. And I can just cycle through these. So I can have battery, transmission temperature, horsepower. You can literally have it blank if you want. Oil pressure, oil temperature, and you can have those set on either side. So if I wanted battery on the right and over on the left I wanted horsepower, I can have it set that way. So the sport theme is kind of cool with that, because that's literally the only one that you can set those on. But like I said, I still prefer the information that tour mode gives you. And that's going to be pretty much it for the settings part. If we go in above that, this is the navigation. It literally will just show you there in the center. It will show you your navigation for where you're at. So instead of showing it here on the actual display, it will also show it here. So, you know, give you a little bit better of view with it, rather than taking your eyes off the road so much to look over here. Honestly, I never use it because it's not really that big of a deal, especially since most of this information is displayed in the heads-up display. But it's interesting to know it's there. If you hit right on the directional pad, it also gives you a little bit more options. You can resume a route or turn the voice prompts on or off right from there, rather than, again, going over to the actual in-dash display and doing any of that. Now, the option up from that is phone. Obviously, this is going to be if you have a phone paired to the device or to the car, which I do. I have my Google Pixel 2 paired. It will show you the signal strength, the battery life, and if you go, again, the directional arrow to the right, it will give you some of your options. You can go into recent calls or go right into your contacts and call them right from here. Right above that, we have audio, which if we come into this, it will show exactly what's playing on, again, on the center dash here. So I have Sirius XM playing right now, and it is on the channel Octane. And it will show all of that information right there on the dash as well. And again, if you hit the directional arrow to the right, it gives you a couple more options. You can go change the input of the radio. So if you have a USB, or if you want to go to regular FM radio or anything, you could do it right from there. You could browse through all the different stations available on Sirius XM, or you can go right into your favorites right here as well. Now, if we go from audio up to performance, this is, again, like I touched on in the first video, this will just take you back to the performance numbers here in the Tour theme. Over on the right there with the engine, oil temperature, and everything, that's what you get from there. If we go back into info, I touched on this a little bit in the first video, but not in great detail. So basically the first one here is just your speed, digital speed. Second one's going to be your trip. So if you wanted to reset any of this, you can press and hold the select button right here, and that will reset any of those numbers. And you got your trip A and trip B. And then this one here, this is your fuel range, and this is actually where you go to see the difference when it changes from V8 to V4. You'll see it right there, and it will show you your instant fuel economy, which whenever I was doing this on my trip to Maple Grove, I actually watched that in V8 mode, average between 10 and 12 miles per gallon. And when it went down to V4 mode, I saw it get as high as 40 miles per gallon. So the 4-cylinder mode activation really does help with gas consumption, but it really makes the car sluggish, just as you would imagine it does. So this is really only going to really help you out if you live somewhere where there's long, straight, flat highways. And then the next one down is going to be oil life, which, yes, I still need to change that, I know. Next one down is tire pressure, which is pretty interesting to see. I've found through my ownership years that basically GM is one of the only car manufacturers that shows the actual tire PSI. My wife's Lincoln will literally only tell you if it's low. It won't tell you what the actual PSI is in the tire. My previous Nissan would only tell you if it was low. It would not tell you what the PSI was. It is an interesting feature to have, to know exactly what that PSI is. I'm sure there's other manufacturers out there that do it, but in my experience, one of the only ones that I found that does is GM. And then the next option down is just your best and your average gas mileage for the last 50 miles. Not overly useful, especially since most people aren't buying this car to get great gas mileage. And the next option down is going to be just your total fuel used and a timer if you ever started one. This option is actually pretty cool. If you're on a road that has pre-programmed speed limits in it, it would actually literally show you the limit of the speed right there on the dash, which is interesting because I noticed mine doesn't do it on very many roads. So I'm assuming it's tied in with the actual GPS of the in-dash display, because the 2018 Stingray that my wife and I took on vacation a year ago had a lot more roads available that showed that speed, and it actually displayed that speed in the heads-up display as well, which is pretty cool because this one doesn't. But I'm assuming that's probably a software feature that won't be fixed, whereas this miles per hour thing here is probably tied to the actual GPS update that needs done for this car, since this is a 2015. And then the last one is going to be your engine hours and lifetime revs. This would just be useful if you're buying the car used and you want to see how long it's been, you know, possibly beat on. And that's really going to do it for the interior settings here. So for the most part, that's going to cover everything in the actual in-dash settings. So I hope that helped. Okay, and kind of a bonus one, I found a lot of people don't seem to know about the actual trunk release button, which if you come to the rear license plate, it's actually right up underneath here. You can see it's right here. And if you press that, it pops the hatch open. So that's just going to be kind of a bonus one, because I actually did this the other day at the one of the collaboration videos we did, and everybody was impressed that that was there. They didn't know about that. All right, guys, so that's going to do it for today's video. I think I pretty much covered everything I can think of in the settings, in the actual in-dash, as well as some in the speedometer cluster. So if you have any extra questions or anything specifically you'd like me to go over, please shoot them in the comments section down below. If you liked the video, give me a big thumbs up. And if you haven't hit subscribe yet, please do. And as always, guys, I'll catch you in the next upload.